Two pitchers who threw a game on Wednesday afternoon are future Hall of Famers who made us think, hey, why can't there be more pitchers like that now? Fact of the matter is there very well could be. They could just be the victims of the age that they're playing in. This is Locked On MLB.
You are Locked On MLB. Your daily MLB podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello, baseball fans. Welcome to Locked On MLB, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. This is the daily podcast. We talk about all of Major League Baseball. I'm your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. As you can tell by my lower third, if you're watching me on the YouTubes, you can please call me Sully. I'm recording this episode on the 4th day of May, 2022. When I drop it depends on things that I have absolutely no control on. Maybe I'll drop it on the evening of the 4th. Maybe I'll catch it on the morning of the 5th. Chances are you're listening to this on the morning of the 5th, Cinco de Mayo. If you happen to celebrate Cinco de Mayo, have a happy Cinco de Mayo. If you don't, I hope you have a nice 5th of May. I always wish people well, whether they celebrate the holidays or not. I'm not a religious person at all. I've made it clear. I'm a non-believer. I'll always say Merry Christmas. I'll say have a great Kwanzaa, have a great Passover. I want you to have a nice day. And if you don't celebrate Cinco de Mayo, I hope the 5th of May is a good one. Why not? We have enough bad stuff happening. Let's just wish good things on people, except on the baseball field where you want your team to win. That's one of the great things about baseball. You can get your aggression out there. In the end, it's safe. Anyway, thanks so much for making us your first listens. We're available on all your free podcasts and catchers. Follow us on Locked On MLB Pods for Instagram and on Twitter. You can follow me. I'm your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. A bunch of games were played on Wednesday afternoon, including the Mets lost to Atlanta. So there goes that winning streak that they had there. The Guardians dropped the first game of a doubleheader to San Diego, and 5-4 was the final there. Pirates and the Tigers. The Pirates won that one 7-2 in the opening game, and then the Tigers won the second one 3-2. Or was it the other way around? Either way, they split the doubleheader. I actually honestly don't remember which game was played first. Tampa Bay. I picked the Blue Jays to win the American League East. The Yankees are on fire. Man, Tampa Bay is just laying there like a devil ray in the bottom of the ocean. And this acquisition they have of Corey Kluber, who, remind you, he's a 2-time Cy Young Award winner and threw a no-hitter last year with the Yankees. Injuries did catch up with him. He had another very good game today. Struck out 7 in 6 shutout innings and a game against the Oakland Athletics. And it was no score until late in the game. And the Rays wound up scoring 3 unanswered runs in the 8th inning. Margot got the 2-run single, and then there was a balk. Nothing's more exciting than a run balked in. Maybe that's one of the rules I would have if I became the commissioner of baseball is no more balks. No more balks. How about them apples? How about if it was that pitcher could do whatever they want? They could stop, they could hop around, they could do whatever they want because there's no running game anyway. So just, stop with the box. Nothing is more confusing than when you're at a ball game and somebody balks. Because no one ever sees, unless it's something egregious. Like the person's, goes into a full motion and stops, or like what happened one year where Santiago Casilla was in the bottom of the 10th or the 11th in the game against San Diego, and he kind of, his windup got all screwed up, and he threw the ball into the ground, and it was just that was a run balked in, a winning run balked in. Boy, nothing's more exciting than that. I mean, I don't see the reason for it. It's kind of a silly thing. Again, I'm not going to die on that hill, but I wouldn't mind seeing the balk being taken away from us. By the way, I'm going to wish a happy birthday on the 5th of May to Ron Oster. Ron Oster, who played many years with Cincinnati. He picked the wrong time to join the Cincinnati Reds as a rookie in 1978, just as they were dismantling the Big Red Machine. Final year of Pete Rose, Sparky Anderson's last year, final year with Joe Morgan, and next to last year of Joe Morgan. By the time he became a regular, they were all gone when he was a Rookie of the Year contender in 1980. And he hung around, played through the Reds when they were ripped off of a trip to the postseason in 81 because of the split season, was there for the Pete Rose gambling years. And finally, in 1990, as a reserve player who actually played well off the bench, thank you very much, got a key run batted in the World Series. And that was the final game he played, was as a member of the 1990 World Series champion Cincinnati Reds. So happy birthday, Ron Oster. Now, I'm going to be talking about World Series winners in the third part of today's segment. There are two games I want to bring up and then talk a little bit about the times that we live in and the times that players play in. The Seattle Mariners, I know it's early, things can happen, but I've been screaming at the top of my lungs that if you're a team like the Mariners who are trying to make the postseason for the first time since 2001, and I picked them to win the division. They were a 90-win team last year. I thought they improved. I thought they were very good. And they wound up losing to the Houston Astros. They got freaking swept by the Houston Astros. You know how I said it's never the wrong time to go on an 11-game winning streak like the Yankees did? It's never the right time to be swept by your division rival. This is the sort of thing that could really bite the Mariners in the buttocks if they finish the season just a couple of games behind Houston, like they did last year. And when you look at what about those head-to-head games, they got swept in a series in early May. What was early May? Well, they now have to make up those games. This is the point that I'm making. You want to win a division. These head-to-head games, you circle them on the GD calendar. It's a balanced schedule, so it's not like the past years where they're going to play each other like 19 times. You only have X number of times you're going to be playing your division rival. You got swept. Come on, Mariners. You want to make the postseason, you got to knock this off. Now it was Brash did not pitch well. Streckenrider did not pitch well. Suarez got a home run. Crawford got a couple of hits. But other than that, the rest of the bats were dead. And, Bregman wound up having a good game. Verlander pitched a fine game. Next thing you know, the Astros, who are trailing the Angels by a few games, won. Dusty Baker adds to his win total. He's now past the 2,000 win total as a manager. Every other manager who's won 2,000 games are already in the Hall of Fame with one exception, and that's Bruce Bochy, who's going to be in the Hall of Fame. It's funny. Part of me was rooting for I was rooting for the Astros in the World Series last year so Dusty Baker can get that World Series ring and silence his critics and get his butt in the Hall of Fame where he belongs. But here we are. The Astros are going to put together a tremendous year this year. They're going to be a contender. They may be a playoff team. And one of the reasons why they are is their pitching. Like the Yankees, the pitching's better than I thought they were going to be. And Verlander, who was not a part of the team last year, only pitched one game in the COVID season, didn't pitch at all last year. So he basically hasn't pitched since winning the Cy Young in 2019, has been really, really good. And he won again today, pitching into the seventh inning. Got his third win. Who cares about wins? His ERA is still under 2. And he's a throwback. He pitched like an ace, pitched into the seventh. There's another game there. Went on, another team that is trying to piece together another trip to the postseason. It's St. Louis. And they played their interstate rival, which is the Kansas City Royals. I think we should realign baseball and have geographical rivalries like the Cardinals and the Royals be in the same division. But who won there? Adam Wainwright. 7 innings, 1 hit, shutout ball. He's pitching quite well, thank you very much. This is throwback the clock night. This is turning back the clock to 2006. Remember 2006? That year, Justin Verlander was the Rookie of the Year. And he wound up pitching 186 innings and pitching out being one of the big reasons why the Detroit Tigers wound up going to the World Series, and he went on an amazing run where he's won, multiple Cy Young Awards, won the MVP one year, and became a traditional Hall of Fame level workhorse, throwing 200 innings year in and year out, winning the unofficial pitchers triple crown, especially in 2011. You like wins, he got the wins. You got ERA, led the league in ERA. You like innings pitched, led the league in innings pitched. Like strikeouts, led the league in strikeouts. Like ERA plus, led the league in ERA plus. Like whip, he led the league in whip. What the lowest hits per 9 inning, that was him too. Traditional stats and sabermetric stats, he covered all the bases and has had a wonderful career, winning the Cy Young Award in 2019. I would have given it to Garrett Cole, but what the hell do I know? Revived his career in Houston, or revived his career. He was a great pitcher in Detroit, except for he had one mediocre season, and the rest of the time he was an ace, and a traditional ace at that. And then you had Adam Wainwright, who also came in, was a rookie in 2006. Now, the Cardinals that year mainly used him out of the bullpen, and he became the replacement for Jason Isringhausen in the postseason. He had 3 saves in the regular season, but when Isringhausen went down, suddenly it was Wainwright who started picking up the saves, and he had 3 regular season saves and 4 postseason saves. Not bad. He did not let up a single earned run in 9 2/3 innings out of the bullpen, clinched the division series, the championship series, and the World Series. Got to be the pitcher on the mound to do that, and is a rare fraternity of pitchers who have clinched a postseason series as a reliever and as a starting pitcher throwing a complete game. Very few people have done that. John Smoltz did that off the top of my head. He was one. I can't think of anyone else right now. I'm sure there's a couple, but that's the only one I could think of off the top of my head. Verlander also, actually in 2012, 2013, both Verlander and Wainwright threw complete games to clinch the division series. And Wainwright is a throwback. Now, he, of course, missed some time. He missed the entire 2011 season, ironically, a year where the Cardinals went to the World Series. But he's been a 200 innings pitcher for a bunch of those years, including you have to go all the way back to 2021 to find him throwing 200 some odd innings. He threw 206 1/3 last year. And he looks like he's going to be a workhorse again this year, piling up the innings and being that guy that you hand the ball to every 5 days and knowing you're going to get a quality start. Why can't we get pitchers like that? Why can't the pitchers today pitch like that, says old man Sully. Fact of the matter is, and I'm going to talk about this in segment 2, they probably can. They're just for the lack of a better word, a victim of the circumstances of the times that they're playing in. And so we're going to talk about a little bit of what that means going into segment 2. But hey, before we go into that, let's talk a little bit about Blue Nile. Now, both Justin Verlander and Adam Wainwright have pitched their teams to a World Series championship, and they've got themselves a World Series ring to celebrate those life moments. And that's the sort of thing you can do from BlueNile.com. They've got all the best jewelry, whether it's your best bracelets, the best fine jewelry, and if you want to have the cocktail rings, tennis bracelet, or a beautiful wedding ring, BlueNile.com has you covered. They're the original online jeweler. Since 1999, before Verlander and Wainwright got started, they've helped millions of couples create their perfect engagement ring. BlueNile.com offers expert advice 24/7 with legendary service and 30-day returns. When you commit to a piece, so does Blue Nile. They have guaranteed service and repair for life, and Blue Nile's price guarantee. Contact Blue Nile to compare a competitor's diamond against one of Blue Nile's, and in most cases, it'll be matched or they'll even beat their price. And in most cases, Blue Nile can deliver overnight. Every order is insured. Now, let's talk about it. This Mother's Day, give mom something she'll treasure forever with fine jewelry from BlueNile.com. And Locked On MLB listeners will get $50 off any purchase of $500 or more. This podcast exclusive is good only through Mother's Day this weekend. So use code Locked On. That's code Locked On. Plus, every order is insured, ships free, and arrives in discreet packaging that won't give away what's inside. Shop stress-free and find your favorite piece. Go to BlueNile.com today. And let's move on and talk a little bit about Athletic Greens. Our next part is a product that I've used, and it's fantastic. I'm trying to take better care of myself, trying to get better gut health, more energy, optimized immune system, and Athletic Greens is the way to go. You're absorbing when you use Athletic Greens, whether it's a scoop, whatever product you use. You get 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source, superfoods, probiotics, and aptogen. I don't even know what they are. I know I'm supposed to know what they are, but I don't. But I can tell you, it's lifestyle friendly, whether you eat keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, or gluten-free. You can use Athletic Greens, and it supports better sleep quality and recovers support mental clarity and alertness. It's the one thing with all the best things. Athletic Greens uses the best of the best products based on the latest science with constant product iterations and third-party testings. Athletic Greens is climate neutral certified company. In 2020, Athletic Greens purchased carbon credits that support projects protecting old growth rainforests. For every purchase, they donate to organizations helping nutritious food to kids in need, including No Kid Hungry here in the United States. In 2020, Athletic Greens donated over 1.2 million meals to kids in 2020. All right, right now it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient and daily nutrition. It's just one scoop in a cup of water every single day. That's it. No need for a million different pills or supplements. To look out for your health, to make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/MLB network. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/MLB network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. I was thinking about this when I was downing my Athletic Greens. Adam Wainwright and Justin Verlander are throwbacks to those kind of aces, those ones you hand the ball to every 5 days. You're going to get 7 or 8 innings. There's a period of time you handed the ball to the ace, you knew they were going to give you 9. The relievers were just basically failed starters and to be used only in emergency. As those pitchers threw 150 innings or 50 pitches per game or whatever. Okay? Now you see pitchers who are their finest pitchers in baseball. There's some tremendous pitchers, but they don't go beyond 5. They don't beyond 6. Is it because they're weak? No. It's just this is how baseball has evolved. This is how baseball goes now. We're seeing pitchers. The stats show that once they get through the lineups 2 times, by the time they get to the 3rd time through the lineup, the level of risk to have them go through that 3rd time through the lineup is super high, especially when you have a bunch of flamethrowers in your bullpen. Have the batter see them for the first time, and by then you're in the 7th, 8th, or 9th inning, and you're hopefully will be wrapping up the game pretty soon. Now, of course, anyone with a set of eyes sees where the risk is in that. First of all, you're banking that those relievers are going to pitch better than the starting pitcher. You're also banking that the starting pitcher doesn't have it in them to go through a lineup a 3rd or 4th time. You're also banking that those relievers aren't going to get gassed. That's what always drives me crazy as a fan when I see that they're always pulling the starter in the 5th or 6th inning. I go, well, why don't you push the 1 more inning instead of using the same relievers every day? Because you're seeing a lot of times those relief pitchers are pooped by the time you get to September or October, maybe broken down. So what made Verlander and Wainwright seem like these throwbacks? Well, because they pitched at a time where, yes, there was relief pitching. There were not as many complete games as there were, in the 40s, 50s, 60s, or even the 70s. The 70s when you started seeing relief pitchers becoming stars and starting to be paid well, and suddenly it became a real advantage to have a Raleigh Fingers or a Sparky Lyle or a Rich Gossage or a Bill Campbell or a Dan Quisenberry or a Lee Smith or Jeff Rudin in your bullpen. And so the times changed. You saw the complete games started going down a lot. And then La Russa figured out, wait a minute, why do I have to always bring them in when the matchup is against me? Why don't I sometimes bring them in when I say, okay, I know this guy's going to always pitch the 7th, this guy's always going to pitch the 8th, this guy's always going to pitch the 9th. They have a fresh inning, and then boom, boom, boom. That's when the bullpen roles became clearer. And then it evolved into what we have now. Baseball changes, baseball evolves, and sometimes things that you see that are normal parts of the game become parts that certainly statistics don't reflect each era as being identical. We see that 3 or 4 complete games will probably lead the league this year. It wasn't that long ago that you saw pitchers with double-digit complete games. Chances of that happening again are close to nothing. But if some of our top pitchers from now were playing in a different era, they probably would be used differently. It's the systems that we have now. It's not the players. We have different models of how to handle pitching staffs. I started thinking about this, like in the steroid era, for example, you saw 50 home runs often wouldn't lead the league. Hell, the year that McGwire hit 60 home runs and Sosa hit 66, Greg Vaughn hit 50 home runs in 1998, and that was the 4th highest total in Major League Baseball that year. Nobody hit 50 home runs between George Foster in 1977 and Cecil Fielder in 1990. You went through the entire 1980s without one player hitting 50 home runs. And throughout the mid-90s, 50 home runs became basically an annual occurrence. Sammy did a bunch of times. McGwire, of course, did it several times. Griffey did it. Greg Vaughn did it. Brady Anderson did it. The year that Bonds hit 73 home runs. The year that Bonds hit 73 home runs, Tomei Helton and Sean Green all hit 49 home runs, 1 home run shy of 50. And that was the 5th highest total in baseball that year. Rodriguez, he would do it. It became an everyday occurrence. Now, does that mean that Greg Vaughn was a better home run hitter than, say, Mike Schmidt, who led the league several times with under 40 home runs? Does that mean that those are better home run hitters than, say, when you go back to the 60s, when you saw like Ernie Banks led baseball home runs with 41? Or was it because that was the way the game was played then? Frank Home Run Baker. He hit so many home runs that his nickname was Home Run. And Frank Home Run Baker would lead the league. I'm going to baseballreference.com, the single greatest website in the history of the planet Earth. And he would lead the league with, in 1911, 11 home runs. Led the league. 10 home runs in 1912. Led the league. 12 home runs in 1913. Led the league. Led the league those years by busting double digits. Now that's what a platoon outfielder gets. Does that mean the platoon outfielders are better, or does that mean that's the era that they played in? I can't help but think in terms of stolen bases. Stolen bases, like if you lead the league in stolen bases, Starling Marte led the league in stolen bases with 47. Last year. Shohei Ohtani cracked the top 10 in baseball with 26 stolen bases. In 2018, Whit Merrifield led all of baseball with 45 stolen bases. If you wind up getting a 30 stolen base season, you're going to be amongst the league leaders in all of baseball. Look at the 1980s. There were several years where you saw players get 100 stolen bases. Rickey Henderson broke 100 1, 2, 3, 4 times. Vince Coleman did it 3 times. And in fact, when you take a look in 1990, Rickey Henderson stole 100 bases in 1980. Rickey Henderson stole 100 bases in 1980. Ron LaFleur stole 97. Omar Moreno stole 96. If LaFleur stole 3 more bases and Moreno stole 4 more bases, you would have 300 stolen basemen in the same year. As it was, you had 390 stolen basemen. Okay? 90 is more than the top 2 stolen basemen from last year combined. Whit Merrifield and Starling Marte last year stole 87. Now, does that mean that Ricky Henderson is so much better than them? Well, yeah, but Ricky is the exception. Remember, Ricky Henderson led the league in stolen bases in 1998. He did in 1980 and 1998. In an 18-year gap, he was leading the league in stolen bases. But does that mean that the Willie Wilsons or the Julio Cruzes or the Omar Morenos or the Lonnie Smiths of the world were so much better and such better base runners than the Starling Martes or the Trey Turners or the Cedric Mullins or the Jose Ramirez's or the Fernando Tatis Jr.'s of the world? No, actually it doesn't. It just says that the game as being played now has a different emphasis, and you're seeing it reflected in the statistics. There are pitchers being brought out now who could throw 9 innings, who could be that John Smoltz, Dave Stieb, Burt Blyleven type pitcher who goes 9 innings almost every time they give him the ball. There are stolen base guys out there who could be stealing 80, 90, 100 stolen bases. If Ricky Henderson played today, they would put a rope on him. They would tether him to first base, and he would probably lead the league with 30 or 40 stolen bases. Now, that isn't to say Ricky Henderson was solely the product of the era that he played in. Ricky Henderson is one of the single greatest offensive players of all time. But guess what? Somewhere out there right now is one of the great stolen base artists of all time. Just like somewhere out there, there's a starting pitcher who is one of the best workhorses in the history of baseball. We'll just never know it. The same way that Greg Vaughn was not a better home run hitter than Jim Rice or Frank Home Run Baker. It was just the era that they played in. I get a little eye roll time when I hear people talk about the softness of the players today. They're being babied this, they're being babied. It's not that they're the ones they're being dictated. The statistics are being told to the managers, and the managers are managing accordingly. Risk-free, because nothing's more fun than watching something risk-free. Verlander and Wainwright are throwbacks who stick out now. There will be another workhorse out there because at one point, there will be a contrarian point of view to what we have now, and we're going to go back to pitchers going deeper into the game. It's probably going to come when you start seeing bullpens being blown out. But it's the product of the time. Verlander and Wainwright are the products of their time. And somewhere out there, not to quote the film American Tail, there is a great pitcher and a great stolen base artist who are just not getting the opportunity right now. That's the surest bet I can ever think of. If you're going to make any bets, go to BetOnline. BetOnline.net is your number one source for all your betting stats and sports info. Find all the latest sports developments, league reviews, and news, including this year's basketball playoffs, Major League Baseball, and this weekend's Run to the Roses in the Kentucky Derby. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sports wagering information, from live betting to playoffs, esports, and more. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. BetOnline, it's where the game starts. I was thinking about this, that in the era of free agency, which began in the mid-'70s, about once a decade, we have what I have nicknamed a house cleaning World Series title. Now, what do I mean by that? A team wins the World Series. It's not the team you're expecting to win the World Series at the beginning of the year. And the team is filled with veterans who you don't necessarily associate with that team, who are winning their first World Series championship and checking that off of their baseball bucket list. And many times, a lot of those players just arrived, and oftentimes those players leave shortly after that. But you see several examples. It happens about once a decade. About once a decade, there's a team where it is quite simply filled with players who have never won a World Series ring, and stable veterans and everything. And I believe there is a team out there. We haven't had one this decade yet. Okay? We've had 2020, 2020. This is our third year of this decade. I start the decade in 2020. And if you say it started the previous year, I don't know what to tell you. That's a you issue. Nothing to do with me. By the way, as you can tell, I am in my classroom. And if someone's going to clean the window behind me, we're all going to have to just deal with that. Now, here comes the cleaning. There you go. Now, the first example of a house cleaning, and maybe it's appropriate. Maybe it's appropriate. They're cleaning the window while I'm doing this. If you're only listening to this, someone's cleaning the window behind me. The first example I can think of a team that was basically filled with players who are looking for their first ever World Series championship, and they kind of piecemeal together, were the 1987 Twins. That's a very strange team. They had a negative run differential. They were terrible on the road. And by the way that the playoffs were set up back then, they got home field advantage throughout the postseason, even though they had the worst record of any of the playoff teams. That was how weird baseball was in the 80s. Now, there were some players on that team that you certainly associate with the Minnesota Twins. Kent Hrbek, Tom Brunansky, Gary Gaetti, Kirby Puckett, Frank Viola. Fine. But there was a lot of other players who were veterans who became stars with other teams, who joined that team and picked up a long-awaited for World Series ring. And some of them were players for a long time who you think about with other teams. Jeff Reardon became a star with the Expos. You saw Don Baylor, who played forever. Joe Niekro, who played forever. Now, Roy Smalley did start his career with the Twins, but then got kicked around, then came back to win a ring. And there were several other players like George Frazier. You saw players like Dan Schatzeder. You saw players who were there was one other really big, who were there just forever. Blyleven, of course, had won with the Pirates beforehand, but you saw there was a bunch of players on that team who got their first ever World Series ring, and that it was, they were kind of cobbled together. A lot of those players were not on the team when the season began, and they were playing for other teams by the time the next year showed up. They all came together in a kind of a weird eclipse to pick up a ring. They all picked up World Series ring. The biggest, Niekro and Baylor are the two biggest examples. No one thinks about them with the Twins. But there, they got their rings there. Schatzeder may still be pitching for all I know. He pitched forever. The next time we saw that was in the 1990s. And the Florida Marlins in 1997, you saw a ton of players who had wonderful careers. Moises Alou, Gary Sheffield, Kevin Brown, Darren Dalton, Bobby Bonilla. I mean, just off the top of my head, where you go up and down that team, we're filled with players. Alex Fernandez, Rob Nen, Dennis Cook. So many players were on that team who had long careers and only once saw a World Series title fall upon their laps. Jim Eisenreich. And virtually none of those players I mentioned you think of first with the Marlins. Some of them I bet you forgot even played on them. Darren Dalton. You don't think of it with Dalton, but Moises Alou played all over. Played 1 year with the Marlins. They picked up their World Series ring. And they were all acquired before the year began. Kevin Brown, look at his career. He had a great career. His lone ring was there. A lot of those players I just said, Bonilla, Sheffield, Alou, Dalton, Eisenreich, wonderful careers, all of them. Sometimes you had role players like John Cangelosi or John Wayner, wonderfully long careers, all of them. Greg Zahn, their lone ring was when they played that one weird year in Miami. House cleaning. A lot of those players had great long careers, deserved rings, deserved to have that ring. And they got them. Just like Baylor and Niekro deserved those rings. They got them. They just got them with a weird team. The next time we had a house cleaning one, and I think this is one of the great ones, was the Diamondbacks in 2001. Now, Schilling went on to win a couple of World Series rings after that, but that was his first ring. It was the only ring for Randy Johnson. It was the only ring for Matt Williams. You go around the line, the Reggie Sanders, who played on a ton of playoff teams, his only ring. Yes, there's some players who you do associate with the Diamondbacks, like Luis Gonzalez, for example. But what about Mark Grace, Matt Williams? Mike Morgan, who played on 50,000 teams in his career. There were Greg Swindell, Bobby Witt, players who had really, really super long careers, bounced around, finally got their ring played in that one World Series where I'm sure you don't think of any of those players, with very few exceptions. You don't think of those players as the Arizona Diamondbacks. I'm sure there are others. If I really, Steve Finley, there's another one. Players who played super long careers and finally got their ring with a team that most of them weren't part of the year before, and a lot of them were gone by the end of the next year. Mark Grace got fitted for his ring. And I knew a lot of people were diehard Cub fans who were super thrilled for Mark Grace because he was such a great Cub over those years. And he finally won a ring. He had to go to Arizona to win it, but he got himself a World Series ring. Oddly, the next one to do it was the one to do it in the 2010s were the Red Sox in 2013, the Boston Strong year. There were a ton of players who had really good, solid careers who got their only World Series ring with that team. Now, very few superstars did, and there were some people you certainly associate with the Red Sox. I mean, there were some leftover players from the 2017, like, of course, Ortiz, Pedroia, Buchholz, Lester. Who else was on that team? There was one of the big one who was on there. Jacoby Ellsbury. And a few of those players wound up playing on the 2018 team, like Jackie Bradley Jr. actually wasn't on the playoff roster, but he was part of that team. And Xander Bogaerts was also on that squad as well. Okay, fine. But you saw the likes of, Johnny Gomes and Mike Napoli, and you saw the likes of, a Stephen Drew or a Jared Sotolamacchia, a Koji Uehara. At the time, PV won his first ring with there. He wound up getting a second ring with the Giants. But there was a bunch of veterans who were on that team that you don't necessarily associate with the Red Sox, who came together for that 1 year, won, and Gomes and most of them were gone by the time the parade was over. I think we're due for one of those. A team that's filled with some players you may think of with other squads who are looking for that elusive ring and doing it with a team that you may not be expecting. And I think the candidate that I look at right now for that team is the Mets. Now the Mets have some players who you certainly think of as Mets. I mean, Jacob deGrom, when he comes back, is absolutely someone you think of like that. And Pete Alonso and is certainly someone you would say, okay, that he's a Met. And Jeff McNeil is one as well. But there's also the likes of Eduardo Escobar, Mark Canha, Starling Marte, Francisco Lindor, Carlos Carrasco, Taijuan Walker, Adam Ottavino, a bunch of people who have played a bunch of years in this game, and not all those years have been with the Mets. And of course, the biggest one of them all is Buck Showalter, who set so many teams to the postseason, got them set up. Only have other managers collect the trips to the World Series on his hard work. So in terms of a house cleaning World Series, the Mets are a candidate for that. And of course, Scherzer has a ring with the Nats. So there are some. This isn't tried and true, but in terms of a team that you look at and going, I wonder. I wonder if this is the team that's going to win the World Series this decade, that's filled with players who you think about with other teams, but get fitted with their rings for this unusual fluke where everything came together. Mets didn't win today. They got clobbered by the Atlanta Braves. But will they join the 87 Twins, the 97 Marlins, the 2001 Diamondbacks, and the 2013 Boston Red Sox as the house cleaning World Series champions? I don't know. Go to BetOnline and make that bet right now. But hey, thanks so much for listening to the podcast. We're going to do another. We're going to drop one more this week, and then we're going to meet up. Probably going to do one over the weekend. So check us out on Sunday. We're probably going to recap the games from Friday and Saturday, and then Millard will be back to do the Monday show. So follow us at Locked On MLB Pod. Same handle on Instagram. I'm your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball on Twitter. Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. And hey, while I'm here, let me just say thanks so much for making Locked On MLB your first listen. Make Locked On Now your second listen. It's got recaps of Major League Baseball games with analysis from our local experts, taking fans through the season like no other network, free and available wherever you get your podcasts. This is Locked On MLB. I'm your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. They've cleaned my door, and you can call me Sully.